How can I tell if I am addicted to porn? I'm Dr. Trish Leigh. Let me tell you how you can know. Okay, in this video, I am going to cover 6 points that can show you if you have a problem with pornography consumption. These are not my opinions. They are based on a test that is given to people who are concerned about problematic pornography consumption, and that's what the test is called. Then, number 2, I'm going to tell you what is happening in your brain so that you must go back to the screen in the way that these 6 points describe. Then, lastly, and importantly, I'm going to tell you what to do about it, how you can get yourself out of this vicious cycle so that you can put porn behind, get on purpose in your life, and start rocking out your best life at your full potential. So let's dig in. The 6 points that show you that you might have a problem with pornography consumption. Okay, number 1 is salience. It's important to you. So it is consuming your time, your energy, in some cases your money, and definitely your mental space. So if you are thinking about porn a lot and if you spend a lot of time and energy on it, it is salient or important to you. That's the number 1 way. Okay, number 2, there is tolerance. So there is a gradual increase in pornography consumption without a major increase in satisfaction. So that's tolerance or habituation. And we'll talk about that when we get to the brain mechanisms. Number 3 is that you're using pornography for mood modification. So when you feel stressed out or when you feel bored, you go to the habit to alter your mood from negative to positive. Sound familiar? I know that is the case for a lot of people. That is another way that you can know you have a problem. Number 4 we're on is that it brings conflict into your life. So either intrapersonal conflict, which means conflict within you, or interpersonal conflict. So problems in your relationships, problems with your employer, problems with your children, you find yourself isolating and not going out with your friends anymore. Or intrapersonal is you feel regret, you feel shame, you feel guilt, you feel like you are violating some of your codes. So that is intrapersonal conflict, and that is the next marker. Second to last, number 5, is withdrawal. When you try to stop watching pornography, you experience discomfort. Mental, psychological, cognitive, physical discomfort. So we know that the number 1 way that shows up is an increase in anxiety or depression or lack of motivation. That flatline period, physically, you might have no libido. So you usually feel in the dumps when you leave porn behind. And I'm going to tell you why in just a second again. And lastly, number 6 is that you relapse. So you make a commitment, I'm not going to watch porn anymore. Then you go out as a champion of the cause, but you find yourself relapsing. Now, those are the 6 points: salience, tolerance, mood modification. It brings conflict into your life. There's withdrawal symptoms. And lastly, you find yourself in a relapse. Now, if any of those, it doesn't have to be all of them, if any of those ring true for you, then it's likely or you may have a problem with pornography consumption. And this comes from the problematic pornography consumption scales. There's more questions than these, but these are the overarching themes. And if these themes are present in a person's life, it's likely they have a problem with porn. Now, why is that happening? Okay, so it becomes so important and salient in your life. This is number 2 on our discussion today. Why is there salience? So there's salience because your brain has been conditioned to go back to the screen neurologically to be able to modify its mood using neurochemicals. So you need to go back to the screen to get that dopamine release in your brain so that you can feel okay. It's being used to soothe your nervous system in most cases. Sometimes it's being used to stimulate your nervous system. Usually it's actually a combination of both. So what it looks like in your brain is your brain's using too much fast brain processing speed and simultaneously too much slow brain processing speed. Not enough calm focus in that middle speed. That is not where you want your brain performing out in these extremes. We want your brain performing optimally and well and at its full potential, rocking out your best life in the middle. The middle's where it's at. And I know that we lose sight of the middle is where it's at because we're looking for high highs, but unfortunately, the pendulum swings in the opposite direction and you get low lows, which leads us to the mood modification piece. So we know at the beginning of a pornography habit being established, what happens is your brain is linked because it discovers pornography. It gets this rush of neurochemicals that makes it feel not only aroused and pleasurable, but it gets this big hit that takes the edge off of the world. So then the brain gets conditioned to know that it can go back to the screen to feel that way very easily. Easy button. You push the easy button and you get this rush of dopamine, which can't happen in the world. That's not how it works in the real world. In the real world, you have to take smaller steps towards a larger goal, and even then you don't get that same amount of dopamine. So it learns easy button, get this rush from an early age. Then what happens is tolerance builds, and habituation means that the brain is always recalibrating itself, needing more of that dopamine hit or flood to be able to feel okay. Now remember, dopamine is the pleasure-seeking neurochemical. It doesn't actually ever get to the end goal. It always keeps you wanting more. And that's what tolerance is. Building up a tolerance and needing more frequent, more consistent, and then usually moving towards more intense pornography to get the same satisfaction, and you can't even get it because that goal is always being moved out. Okay, so we talked about salience, tolerance, and mood modification in the brain. What happens with conflict is we know in a pornography cycle, at the top of the cycle, you're feeling a trigger that triggers you into shame and guilt. Usually it's a stressful trigger, but it can also be boredom. And it triggers you because of shame. So you become triggered, which makes you want to act out and watch porn to get that dopamine release. So then as we're moving through the cycle, if you act out, you watch pornography, you masturbate, finish the session, at the bottom of that cycle is regret and guilt, which can be very powerful for change, but then it moves back into shame and it triggers the cycle all over. So within that cycle, your mood is up and down and all over the place, which creates problems in your relationship because we know it creates more irritability, anger, up and down. Nobody knows what to expect. Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Your children don't know what to expect. Your employers don't know what to expect, especially when you're in the cycle. I need to caveat here for a second. When you're in the cycle, you can't stop yourself. For many people, they can't stop themselves from moving through the cycle, so they have to watch pornography. So many people end up watching porn at work when they should be working because they can't get through the workday without a hit. And when that happens and your employer finds out, many people get fired. Conflict in your world. Or you can't not watch even though your wife's in the bedroom, in the next room. You have to watch because you're in the cycle. Your wife comes out, we've got conflict in your relationship. We also know that there's multi-generational transmission, which means then your children are more likely to be at risk. And the way you interact with your children is considered a type of emotional abuse at its worst extremes, because sometimes you're loving and endearing, other times you're distant or angry, and your kids don't know what to expect. And that can create a lot of relationship problems there. Same thing for your partner or for your honey. They don't know which version they're going to get, and they start having to tolerate a lot of mood disorders. And when that happens, there's friction in the relationship. And we know from the science that when you're watching pornography, you're twice as likely to break up with a partner or to have a marriage end in divorce, because relationship conflict is so prevalent because of the dynamics that are thrown off. And I'll keep moving because we could stay there for a while. But then withdrawal and relapse. So when you want to stay away from the screen, You can't, because your brain is conditioned to get that neurochemical release. So you get to a point where you literally can't exist in the world because it's too arduous without these hits of dopamine. And it's because when you're not in front of the screen, your dopamine levels go lower. So not only do you need higher levels, your dopamine 2 receptors have been fried out and the reward center in your brain has been fried out. So now when you're in the world, everything is twice as bad. And it's very difficult to get through work, and it's difficult to get through family time, which contributes to the moodiness and the irritability, because now you're in high cortisol, stressed out, angry mode, low dopamine, go with the flow mode. That leads to withdrawal, which then leads to relapse, because your brain's like, I need a hit of that to be able to get through this minute, this hour, this day. So what's the way out? I know you probably don't want to hear it, but number 3 is the way out is you have to stop consuming pornography. You have to stop giving your brain the hits that it's looking for. Now, in this video, as much as I don't like giving people cheats in the right direction, I'm going to give you a cheat in the right direction. Meaning this isn't the solution. This is a band-aid to employ while you're in all of this to get you from a person who has a problem with pornography to a person who's rocking out in dignity and integrity. Here's the cheat. The cheat in the right direction is what you need to do is push this cycle out longer and longer and further away from what you have going on right now. So if right now you watch pornography every day, set the goal for every 2 days. Let's cheat it, because we're working up to never again. But if you can't get there, we're going to teach your brain to get the dopamine that it wants, hopefully at lower levels and less frequently. So if every day you're watching porn, make it so that it's every other day. Try to shorten the sessions and try to decrease the intensity. This is very difficult, which is why I don't like to give people cheats in the right direction. For many people, cold turkey, as hard as it can be, is the way to go with the right tools and techniques and strategies and support in place. But if you're going to cheat it, go longer, further apart between sessions, shorter sessions, less intensity. Reward yourself for succeeding. Keep moving forward. Okay, I hope this tip helps you out, but this is how you can know if you have a problem with porn. And if you decide that you have a problem with porn, the best way out is in a comprehensive program. So although every single video on this channel has a brain tip, a strategy that you can use at the end of the video, the best way is to join a program, and I've developed 3 of them, Porn Brain Reboot programs at 3 different levels to move you through comprehensively from beginning to end with all the tools that you need. That is the way that you can succeed. So if you're interested, jump on over to drtrishleigh.com. You'll see the tab that says Porn Brain Reboot and investigate those programs, because I'd love to help you out. I hope to see you in a program so we can get you feeling and performing better as quickly as possible. Okay, and remember, control your brain or it'll control you.